Hi, loves. Justice here. So, it's kind of an interesting day, and feeling like I'm not the only one who's sort of navigating this space between um, feeling like I'm really successful in doing what I need to be doing and getting a lot of really great feedback about that, and then feeling like there are some other things going on that feel like the absolute opposite of that. And so I thought it would be nice to just kind of talk about it because I like to communicate. I think it's helpful for all of us. So let's just take a deep breath as we come into this space and come into our bodies together. Let the air just fill your lungs, soften your belly. Just relax any tension that your body's holding. Let your jaw relax. Let your shoulders relax. Feel whatever you're sitting on, kind of supporting your body. And let's just breathe and be present, because breath is the first way that we change our internal to external dynamic and go into trance. So breath is the first way that we come out of trance. So the first thought is honestly that both success and failure to a certain degree are actually trance states that really they don't have any kind of defined meaning. They kind of have these arbitrary meanings. And the meaning being arbitrary in that it depends on what you value that defines whether you're existing or experiencing a state of success or you're experiencing a state of failure. And I guess depending on what your values are that define how you feel successful or what you're measuring success by, that would kind of determine how you relate to the opposite of that, the opposite trance of that, which would be failure. So, the first thing that we want to acknowledge is that if both are trance states, both are sort of hypnotic suggestions that we agree to the validity of, and then, impress that validity on ourselves to varying degrees, that there's something in between that we actually exist in more consistently and regularly. And that is our natural organic state of just living and being. So I want to remind you of that because that's what I've been spending the day doing with myself, is just reminding myself that living and being is my organic state. And to more compassionately, really truly include my own and others' humanity, that means that within this state of living, I need to make room for what I would define and determine as success. And I need to make room for what I would define and determine as failure, and not let either one of those concepts really determine who I am as a human being. Because if I'm determined by being more when I'm successful, then I've already kind of put myself in a polarity where I'm going to be less tolerant, less kind, less compassionate with myself when I experience something that doesn't feel like a success. So one of the ways, and that's for you guys too, but one of the ways that we have to first figure out what success or failure is we have to determine what's valuable to us. So what's valuable to me? A sense of comfort as being at ease at home in my body, in my physical living space, within my relationships. Not comfort as in I'm editing information out, but a comfort that's both inborn and that I'm working towards. I'm practicing healthy boundaries and I'm practicing healthy habits that help me to feel more comfortable and more aligned in my life. So to me, having that state of comfort, that it's not about having all my creature comforts met, but it's about me engaging in a way with life that actually allows for me to feel more aligned, that feels very successful. So I have to look at, what am I doing? How am I feeling? What am I contributing to my life that supports the feeling of success, which is just living and embracing and embodying those values, versus what am I doing that detracts from or that distorts that sense of success. So starting really simply, like, the first thing that I always want to check in, am I taking care of me? And by that I mean, am I breathing or meditating or engaging in some kind of practice that lets me connect with myself? Because that is going to be an establishment of my own value of myself and my energy as a being, um, independent of anything that I'm doing, creating, or producing. So if I'm determining my value based on what I'm doing, creating, and producing, then that value is going to be subject to different levels um, of distress and excitement, which is okay because that's part of our human experience. But I also want to know that underneath what I'm doing and creating, producing, that there's something that I value even more, that's even more intrinsic, and that's my being. And my body's a part of that, my environment's a part of that. So doing what I need to do to take care of that has to be a priority. So waking up and breathing, checking in with my body, seeing how I'm feeling. For me, a big practice is checking in and with my journal and my first cup of coffee, with before I turn on my phone, before I check social media or check texts. And if I can do that, if I can hold myself to that agreement, then I feel like I have already engaged in a successful endeavor, and that's gonna set the tone for the rest of my day, because I've done what I can do for me to engage from the best place that I can here with the rest of the world. And I'm kind of just like, okay, and now it's like I'm entering into the world, into chaos, and I'm going to acknowledge that to a certain degree, like, I'm going to be at the mercy of the elements because I can't control the weather and I can't control other people's behavior. But I can absolutely determine that it's valuable for me to really be in as much of a state of alignment as I possibly can be. So that's number one. And within that state of alignment is breathing, hydrating, making sure my body feels properly nourished. And then there is going on to tending to the other things that encourage the interaction of success from my internal to my external world. So for me, as a writer, as a healer, it's writing something. It's writing something every day. It's writing in my journal, for myself to sort of, clarify my thoughts and feelings and dreams. But typically, it's also writing something to you. It's posting something that I feel has significant meaning, emotional value. So significant meaning breaks down to emotional value. And it's not like this wavering emotionality. It's something that's established, that you want to dedicate your time and your energy and your resources to. Sandy says it seems small, but it's not so small. No, it's not. It's actually it's helping to build that foundation, right? So I value communication. I value accountability. I value emotional clarity. I value people sharing with as much dignity and and this amazing combination of restraint with their own triggers and emotional passion, what is getting their excitement and their interest in the world, and being a part of that, because I think that's a huge part of our humanity. So I think for all of us, taking time to want to learn to do that more successfully, without what's the word that I'm looking for? Without polarizing ourselves more, without polarizing each other, to me, that's an incredibly successful endeavor. And then for you guys, whatever it is that you feel are your gifts, bringing those into the world, that's going to establish, parameters for you as well, for feeling successful. So for me, like, I'm a writer, I know it's my gift. Offering that to the world, working on it every day, keeping my commitment and focus with that really helps me. That provides a structure to my life, and I feel like I'm giving something back. So success can't be determined in isolation because we are communal and interdependent and relational beings. So if you're determining your success, just based on the things that you're doing, that's one way to build like references with success for yourself. But it's also not going to really complete that cycle because you're just doing it in isolation. So you're not getting that feedback. So doing our internal work is super yummy and juicy and rewarding. But the point of doing our internal work is not to become self-absorbed and absorbed with our internal world, but to actually find what's meaningful, what we're passionate about, and whatever that is, in whatever way that you want to share that gift, whether it's the way you interact with your children or your spouse or the people in your company or whatever. It's taking those internal gifts and value and presenting them to the world so that we can actually kind of shift the currency around what success means. And I think relating successfully to each other needs to be a big part of success because, like I said, we're interdependent beings. So building momentum with the things that we value that give structure to our life is kind of inevitably what builds a success structure. So me being dedicated to my internal work, to educating myself so that I can share what I discover internally and through my own investigation and process, and giving context through that, through education, through the ways that I learn to contextualize all this. This is how I give back to the world. This is a part of my practice, and that feeds me back, and that, feeds my bank account and everything else that I want to invest my energy and resources into. And so that's a very mutually beneficial kind of success exchange. And yet my sense of self and value isn't, it can't be based on that entirely, because that's always a shifting dynamic. So these dynamics are constantly shifting. And it's the same thing with failure. When we have an experience of what we would consider to be a failure, that's us kind of putting ourselves to a certain degree in a failure trance. It's that we have moved so far in the opposite from what we imagined success to look like, that we're now considering what the opposite of that looks like is failure. And it doesn't take into account the whole dimensionality of our being. It doesn't take into account who we are and what we value. It's an arbitrary measurement that we apply to these different ways that we imagine and measure the exponential growth and interaction of our personal values. So if we're not really sure what those personal values are, it's going to be pretty hard to determine whether or not we're being successful in implementing those into the world. And that's typically where people wind up, working for and living for other people's and adapting other value systems that don't actually really truly resonate with them because they don't know what their actual values are. So if success is it's a measurable, and it's measurable, and it's having momentum with the state of internal equilibrium, as well as the dynamic sharing and consistency and structure of what your values are, then failure would simply be an inability or unwillingness to manifest those and to maintain an ongoing state of dedication and commitment with those values. So if you feel like you're failing, what that is it's a learning edge, right? It's a learning edge. It's showing you what you want to pick up, or maybe it's showing you what you don't actually value anymore, because if you're not fully dedicating and committing, then it may be that your value system has changed and you're not actually congruent with what you're contributing your energy to. And that is a perfect way to look at relationship dynamics. If there's no such thing as a failed marriage, then there is this incredible growth experience in which two people came together and tried to implement individual value systems into a shared dynamic in which you learn, you heal, you grow, and then maybe, as you realize that those values aren't compatible, you part ways, or as your values change, because that happens as we grow and we get older. So there's no such thing as a failure there. And I don't think there's really any such thing truly as a failure in business as well. But the concept of failure is really heavy, right? It's like, oh, I suck, I'm a failure. And we're so much more inclined to cling to the ways that we perceive or imagine ourselves to be failing than we are to support and to encourage ourselves when we're building these structures with our value systems. I hope that makes sense to you guys. It just seems like our brains really stick to like that self-criticism and that wanting to make ourselves smaller rather than encouraging ourselves. And where I don't think it's particularly healthy to give trophies to every kid on the team, because if somebody excels at something, then it's absolutely within rights to acknowledge that. And to acknowledge that these other people who don't excel in that way are going to excel at something else, and they need to be encouraged to excel at where their gifts are, just like you need to be encouraged to excel where your gifts are. So if your measurements for success or failure are arbitrary based on these external senses of validation and these external sort of economic markers or social markers, then yeah, you're not going to feel completely settled in yourself, because you're not actually committing to your value system. You're not actually giving yourself really the opportunity to be truly successful, because you're not really truly dedicating yourself to something that's meaningful for you. So how do you know that it's meaningful? Well, there's this emotional component to it. It can't just be rational. It has to be this emotional component as well. So if it lights you up, if it fires off your passion, if it's something that you want to, that even makes you angry, that you want to respond to, because that anger evokes this sense of passion and purpose and desire to do something in response to something, then whatever you do with that value can become a way of building and relating and creating a success structure in your life. My friend here, Sandy, says, yes, re-failure, it's such a misperception. Absolutely. And to look at like, okay, so maybe you're trying out a new skill set. You're learning to build pottery, or you're learning to be a carpenter, or you're trying to train a really wild cat, as in my case. And these are skill sets that you're developing, right? These are skill sets. And it's natural to fail, allegedly, right? To not be immediately successful when you're playing with a new skill set. It's completely natural. We don't look at kids when they're first learning to walk, when they're toddlers and they're like stumbling and toddling, right? And and they fall down, and we don't, oh, you fail at walking, you are a failed specimen. Like, we wouldn't do that to a child, but we do it to ourselves when we're older. And unfortunately, I think we do it to each other too, a little bit too. But there is a difference between valuing self and valuing activity, and being able to value the increased capacity for learning and growth of new skills and activities that can lead to more success structures, or that can lead to more opportunities, aka failures, to learn, to heal, and to connect more deeply, and to practice, and to grow. So, personal example from my life, if you guys follow me, which I know quite a few do, I have this cat who is sleeping on my foot right now. He is, I'll show you, he's my baby. He's my baby. He is sweet. Look how sweet that is. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah. He is a paradox. So there's that side of Odin, and then there's the side of Odin that has been breaking into my neighbors' houses through their cat doors, and that likes to pick fights with other cats, and that likes to bring feathered, furry creatures into my house in the middle of the night. So he's been this wonderful teacher about boundaries, and I've been having to make up and learn this new skill set of having to deal with this beast, this being, in a way that I've never had. I've never had a cat. I've had cats that have been indoor, outdoor cats and hunters, and my whole life I've never had a cat like him. and I asked him specifically for a certain set of experiences to learn and heal and grow with, and he's providing them. So part of that is conditioning him and myself as well, and this community that I live in here, my neighborhood, how we can all interact, keeping all of our value systems intact, because I value his freedom, and I value having him in my life, and they value peace and quiet, the sanctity of their own homes, which is personal, like, it's perfectly reasonable, right? And yeah, how we can all live in safety and harmony. And to me, like, if we can make it through this endeavor, and this will be incredibly successful. And as I'm going through this, there have been many places where I feel like I'm failing myself, and there are many places where I feel like I'm failing him. And one of those came up yesterday, and I've learned not to leave him outside when I'm gone for more than, a brief amount of time. And in spite of what I knew, because sometimes knowing and it doesn't translate to actions across the board always, and that's okay. I left him out longer than I should have, and I got caught up in doing a bunch of stupid stuff that really wasn't a clear, clean investment of my time and energy and resources, but was kind of goofing around and distracting. In my goofing around and distracting state, like, he got into some trouble while I was gone, and somebody called animal control, because this is what happens with boundary violations. If you can't maintain a boundary within yourself, somebody will come along from the external world to enact that boundary for you. So that's what happened. So I had a great day yesterday. I was out in the woods with my mom. I had written to an author that I love. I had wrote this new piece for Elephant Journal, and it got picked up within like a day or two, and like promoted to the magazine section on the front page of Elephant Journal. And it's called I Will Never Apologize for Being Too Much. And it's great. It's like it's wonderful validation for this value and this gift that I'm sharing to the world. And that felt great. And I had written it as I was in this webinar with another author who was doing this ceremony. And I was so like, I'm doing the ceremony, I'm doing everything, and I'm getting this download inspiration. I'm writing as I'm in ceremony, and then I put this article up, and I sent it to the author and I was like, I just wanted to thank you. And I'm so inspired by your work and how it's influenced my own writing. And like, and she actually responded back and like that was, and she responded back and like complimented me on how great the article was. And it was just one of those moments where like you're getting that feedback for, yeah, for like putting out something that is of value to you and getting that reciprocity and that mutual agreement that yes, that this other person also found value in that. And that's exciting. And that is how I would define success, right? That is literally how I would define success. There's mutuality, there's reciprocity, there is acknowledgement, and it's not necessarily of monetary value. Sandy says, congrats, it's a fabulous piece. Thank you very much. I'd pop up the link, but I'm on my computer. I don't have it saved in my clipboard here. But if anybody who's watching wants to pop it up, I'd be grateful. So yeah, so that was really super cool. And I had a beautiful time with my mom in the woods, and like I'd been texting someone who I enjoy interacting with, like just it had been a really great day and a great couple of days. And then I come home to this note on my door and I just felt myself collapse. And you know how that is when it's like you think things are going really well the way you want them to be going, right? And then you encounter this new information or you come across this new pattern or you interact with someone else and it throws you off, right? And you're like, oh, fuck, like maybe I'm not doing as well as I thought I was doing. And here's all this new feedback to consider. And like I really felt like I failed myself. I felt like I failed my cat. I felt like I failed my neighbor. All because I dropped this loop. And this is the thing, it's like there are consequences to dropping those loops. There are consequences to when you're moving through the world and you're developing a skill set, which, most of life is what we're doing. We're just growing up is moving through the world and maturing and developing these new skill sets. Like, of course we're going to fail sometimes. It's only natural. It's just like that little kid learning to walk. And being like deeply loving and continuing to be kind and compassionate with ourselves is being able to come back and to hold that dichotomy, hold that success, and hold that failure within the same bandwidth, like maybe one in each hand, right? Like, oh, I'm succeeding at all this stuff and I failed miserably at this. I'm like, that was how I felt last night and a little bit today. So what's some practical things that we can do when we're in that state? I will tell you, one of the most practical things that you can do is honestly to clean something, seriously, because your entire existence, your inner well-being, the environmental well-being of your place is going to be enhanced vibrationally and aesthetically by cleaning up the clutter, cleaning up the dirt, scrubbing your toilet, scrubbing your tub, doing your dishes, whatever. You're actually giving something back to your environment. You're creating something that you can enjoy and take from your environment, and you're giving yourself something that you can immediately notice. You can visually see the changes that you're making. So cleaning is a really wonderful way to rebalance yourself when you've been knocked off. Instead of wallowing, instead of climbing into your bed and curling up and watching Netflix all day and just like ruminating or avoid ruminating about how bad you suck, like spend a little time there if you absolutely need to, all right? Just a little bit. I did it last night, like after my friend went home that I massaged, and I had this raw space right here in my solar plexus where I felt like I dropped something important. Like I felt like a thread had come unraveled, and I felt really tender. So I climbed to bed and I just kind of did the fetal position around my tender solar plexus. And I got up this morning and I went back to my ritual. I reestablished the primary things that I know make me feel good. Get up, check in with the body, breathe, hydrate, I know most people eat breakfast. I just can't. Coffee ritual, journal, right? Um, check in with the reality of what's going on. Like I've had some fabulous interactions, surprising interactions with this cat, because of this cat, with some of my neighbors, and getting to explore these different parts of myself, how I treat myself when I mess up, how I treat myself or him when he messes up, how that affects Gromit because he's part of our little community here. And this, to me, like I've said, like it's all about sort of developing this success structure. So getting back to that, doing something physical in your world when you're feeling like yeah, like you're like you failed, like you're not good enough, whatever it is, right? And I don't mean like starting like a new diet or weight loss, or like maybe going to the gym if you're into that kind of thing, or going for a walk. But I think cleaning is really fantastic tool, because like I said, you can see a mess, you can address the mess, and then you can see and benefit from the results of being in that space, both internally and externally. So, and it's, you know, it's something that we can all create this immediate sense of reward and success around. And then who knows what might happen from there, you know? It's like I got everything kind of reorganized in my physical space, and like my internal space started shifting and kind of opening up. And I felt motivated, inspired to share this with you guys in this moment. So I hope that my little that my little drama, I hope my little drama can benefit you, and the place that I came to inside of myself from going through this experience. I hope that that can serve as a reminder of something that you can do for yourself as well. I think another really great thing to do is to cook, you know, like to do really basic, simple domestic things that you need to be doing, and doing them for yourself, and doing them from a place of ritual instead of drudgery, doing them from a place of deeply honoring this body that is the vehicle for all of our dreams to come into the world. So it's really, really honoring and taking care of it. And the more you do, and honoring and caring for it and really deeply nurturing it, it's not the same thing as pampering. It's not the same thing as, oh, I don't feel good, so I'm going to eat a tub of ice cream. No, it's, I don't feel good, so I'm going to make a veggie casserole. I'm going to roast a bunch of vegetables, and I'm going to cover them with lovely seasonings, and it's going to be food that came probably out of the ground from my mother's garden right now, because I'm in Montana, and we're like, everyone's going crazy trying to get everything out of the ground before the frost comes. And there's this beautiful there's this beautiful natural quality of that's gone into this harvest, because harvest is literally how we gather and enjoy the fruits of our labor. So we're in that time right now, so we can kind of relax to a certain degree and look at what is showing up that is, you know, that's creating these success structures in our life, and really kind of honor ourselves and enjoy those, and sit down and devour those, and num num num. And it's also a time of releasing and letting go. So it's really, really wonderful and powerful to also look at what's not working in our life, to not beat ourselves up over what's not working, to acknowledge, you know, it's an old strategy, it's an old skill set. It's not something that makes us a dysfunctional human. Like, I'm learning and healing and growing so much right now, and it's so good just to come back to just acknowledging that, and to acknowledging simultaneously, yeah, there are lots of places where that hasn't quite reached yet, where I haven't quite built the structure that I want to have in place to really move through the world in an effective way. And I'm trying, and I'm working on it, and it's important to me, and I'm not going to drop it. And as you come more deeply into contact with those places and with those value systems within yourself, I ask you to please make that same agreement to deeply acknowledge and appreciate, because this is structure for success. what you're doing and how you're doing it and what works for you, and really appreciate yourself and appreciate your efforts, and take the time to really refine and discover what is meaningful and valuable to you, so that you know where to really truly invest your energy and your time and your resources, and hold that here. Deep love, appreciation, gratitude. And simultaneously, because this is a dichotomy, acknowledge what doesn't work. Acknowledge what's not working for you, what's not supporting your life force, what habits you're ready to dismantle, what maybe physical things, these transitional times between seasons is a great time to go through our closet, to go through our house, to get rid of stuff that no longer serves, to clean out habits and to clean out energy, and to release emotions, and ways that we tend to engage when we feel destabilized. It's a wonderful time to say, okay, it served its purpose, and I don't need to do that anymore. So for me, what this situation really brought about, like the crux of it all, is that is that it's not all dependent on me. That it's okay to acknowledge these other factors and these other dynamics relationally and environmentally in my life, and to know that it's okay for me to show up and do the best that I can, and really want to extend those skill sets and that compassion and that capacity, and to be willing to say I'm sorry when I messed up, to be willing to take accountability for my energy and choices and every decision, and to simultaneously be okay with letting myself off the hook when I slip, because that's actually the most supportive way to encourage growth and even more success. So those are my thoughts right now. Thank you guys very much for joining. I hope this is a useful topic for you. If you have any other questions before we sign off, go ahead and pop them in the link and I would be happy to answer them. My friend here says she loves decluttering, going through 300 books. This is the most challenging. I have to get rid of 200-ish. Oh my God, I understand the struggle is real. I had a massive bookshelf that would have taken up almost this whole wall full of books. And I when I moved away out of my last living situation, I scaled down to one box of books, and it was only the most meaningful, most valuable books to me. And and it's so liberating to do that, to get really refined in our values, really refine what we want to contribute our energy and our life force to, and to really know what we're taking out of life as well. And lots of loves and hearts to you guys too. If you find value in what I shared here, you can find me at playfullyconscious.com. I am a mystic guide and mentor, a healer, a hypnotherapist, and I work with people in this capacity to help them kind of uncover their adaptations and get to the root of their gifts and values, and express those in the world in a way that can be of benefit to everybody, themselves and the rest of the planet, the rest of humanity. And Sandy went up here and she found this article, Never Apologize for Being Too Much. It's about really taking accountability for your energy and for your gifts, and being standing in your power and in your autonomy. So if you guys want to give that a listen to, I would love that as well, because I would love to see even more of us be too much, be the colorful, vibrant, enlivened, awakened, excited, passionate response to this dull, manufactured, artificially intelligent, overrun world, which is something similar to what I say in the blog. But that's kind of my dream and hope, and I hope you found value out of this, and I hope you take good care of yourself and each other. Take a deep breath. Exhale. Relax. Love yourselves. Love your life. You are living goodness. Don't ever forget that. And thank you.